Thank you, Marty. Welcome, everybody, to the Northtown Neighborhood News Magazine, a presentation of Sonny Hirsch and myself. Dial us up on the World Wide Web, www.ntnm.org. Over tens of thousands of shows have been watched on YouTube. I stopped counting it. I'm tired of counting these things anymore. It's probably around 60,000 right now, maybe even more. Who knows? Anyway, you can check out all the links to YouTube at ntnm.org. We're still big on community policing, although by the time this airs, there's an actual realistic chance I may no longer be the beat rep at 2412. They're actually having elections this year, and I just want to say before the elections, I don't like the idea of politicizing CAPS and having elections, but it's not my thing. It's up to the individual police people to do what they want. We're happy that Sonny did win. He won his election at 2413, which actually was last night as we taped. And the forces of good have triumphed over the forces of evil. We're very, very pleased to see that. You can find out all the stuff about community policing at caps24.org, which Sonny runs, including all the different schedules and stuff. And we're still going to be a fan of community policing. But you know what the main thing is, no matter what, you need, the whole point of community policing is to have direct contact with the police department. If you've got a problem, you call them, you report it. You know, you don't go to some message board. You don't. You got to let the police know what's going on. So do what you can along those lines. In the meantime, as Joe Chuck Che likes to say, my next guest needs no introduction. Of course, Joe brought my next guest here. So I absolutely refuse to introduce the 50th Ward Alderman Bernard Stone. How are you today?
Thank you, and congratulations to Sonny, the greatest CAPS representative of all.
No question about it.
And that includes present company.
I agree with that 100%. 100%. And maybe even 110. This is Chicago. We do get to vote more than once.
Listen, what would I say about elections?
Well, actually, you try to play things fair and square, but that's your problem. Anyway, whatchamacallit, you know what I want to talk about, which I know I'm going to forget about, is I talked to Barbara Popovic, and I want to just briefly discuss what's going on with the funding for CAN TV.
Well, I've been putting it off because Norma, Norma has been sick, and
it's Norma Reyes.
Norma Reyes, who's the head of Consumer Services, and they are, of course, in charge of cable. And I've been putting off the resolution, which calls for the funding of the ATT portion of, which is what's the matter that's before the council. I've been putting it off till Norma got better. Thank God Norma is feeling better and is back at work. But so matter will be before the Finance Committee at the next meeting, which I believe is on March 16th, something like that. Mm. So we'll be taking the CAPS matter up on that time.
Do you have not CAPS?
Yeah, we're talking about CAPS. I mean the cable matter.
Right. So, do you think it looks good for CAN TV to be able to get their appropriation?
Well, yeah. Well, they're going to get appropriation, but the question, I was supporting the 1% for CAN and 5% for the city. Norma was going for 5.5% for the city and 0.5% for CAN, and I think I've got the support of most of the aldermen.
That'd be terrific. Of course, I've met many of the aldermen over there at CAN TV, and of course, CAN TV actually provides not just a user-friendly, but it's the voice of the people. I mean, the city is the voice of the city.
Well, that's what I'm the one who gave it that name, Voice of the People. So
that's true. You did, and you've always been the champion of free speech in CAN TV. There's no question about it.
I think they should get the legitimate share of the AT. We have no idea what the AT&T contract will be, how much funding it will come for. But if CAN is to survive, it needs those funds.
Yeah, they're not exactly brimming with money over there. And
well, one of the things we're looking for is that we got to have a better facility for cable access.
That would be terrific, as a matter of fact, because that facility's been there a long time, and it's way outlived its usefulness.
It's the wrong place. It's not a good facility, and frankly, they'd be better off out of the loop where they could get better parking and better access for people who come in to use the facility.
I agree 100% along those lines. Got a lot of subject matter to cover. I'm not sure what. By the way, we make it up as we go, but I do know. I do know for sure. I at least want to get an update on what's going on with the new school.
I had a meeting as a matter of fact, had a meeting this morning with Public Building Commission. The committee has approved the awarding of the contract, and they tell me they had 10 bidders who bid on the school, and the bid is being awarded to a contractor who has been in business for 100 years.
Wow.
I said, that's even older than me. And they specialize in school construction, and they're supposed to be very good. And as soon as the mayor gets back, he's going to sign the contract, and then work will commence. It should be commencing right as this goes on the air, which is early March.
Now, at the public meeting that that people can watch on YouTube by going to our website at ntnm.org, there were questions about not enough parking and a separate entranceway to the school through Kedzie.
Well, I had discussed both of those features with Public Building Commission this morning. As far as parking, additional parking, the site is 3 acres. There is no additional land to be gotten. There is no land, period. So the parking is what it is, and that's it. So the school takes up X number of square feet, and the parking is X number of square feet. That's it. That's it. And so we can't expand on the parking lot. If there were off-site parking available, we would try and get it. But quite frankly, there just isn't any off-site parking available. As far as the vacant land to the west, the property to the west, each lot over there sold for over $350,000 a lot.
Wow.
So you tell me, are you going to pay that kind of money to park like maybe 2 cars or 3 cars? I don't think so. As far as the access to Kedzie, there's been some misunderstanding. Are we talking about access for the teachers? Because the only cars that could access Kedzie is from the teachers' parking lot. Because I think there's been some misunderstanding here. If the people think that the public can access to Kedzie, that'll never be, because the public can't cross over the school land. From a liability standpoint, the Public Building Commission pointed out to me that obviously we can't allow the public to go across the Board of Education land, or in other words, drop off the kids on Board of Education land, because if we did that, the Board of Education would be responsible, and there'd be a terrible problem with liability for any child that might be hurt on Board of Education property. That's the reason that you drop them off on the public way. So they have indicated quite sternly that you can't access Kedzie through the Board of Education property. Now, if that was what the people were talking about, that's an impossibility. They've said point blank that you can't cross the Board of Education property, or you have a children's drop-off on their land because of the question of liability. In addition, that was the problem with trying to go through the gas company, and that's what I try to point out to them, is that the gas company would probably nix any going through their land because of the liability question of going through their land would also subject them to liability of any accident that might occur on their property. So the gas company would probably reject going through their property. So, that if that's what they thought, if that the general public was going to access the Kedzie through the Board of Education or through the gas company, that isn't going to be. Now, if we're talking about the teachers, we did find one possibility for the teachers from the parking lot is they could possibly use the alley to go out, but we're talking about 30 cars. If that's what they're talking about, we could probably use the alley to get them from the parking lot to Albion.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure that, from what I could take from the meeting, and I was busy telling people to get shots of this and shots of that, so, but, I think they're talking about the general public being able to...
Well, the general public would then have to go through the Board of Education, would have to drop off their children on Board of Education property. First of all, that would be dangerous for the children, because that means that they're going to be dropping them off in the same area where the automobiles are going. And that's a dangerous thing to start with. Secondly, it makes the Board of Education subject to the potential liability. And quite frankly, the Public Building Commission has said that the Board of Education would never agree to that because they're not going to subject themselves to the liability. So that nixes that, because you can't go through Board of Education, can't allow a public thoroughfare through the Board of Education property.
Yeah.
And it's just an impossibility. That was my problem with. If you could assume that the board would let you go through and go to the gas company property, then my problem with the gas company was the potential liability to the gas company. One of the reasons I've been waiting for an appointment with the gas company was my fear that they wouldn't okay it because of liability. But in any event, my meeting with the Public Building Commission made it very clear that they would not okay the general public going through their property.
So is there going to be a meeting with, you were talking
I'm still working on this. I'm still trying to look for access, but it would obviously, if they're thinking that the general public is going to go through the Board of Education property, that just isn't going to be.
Okay. Now I know. Let's get to you're talking about potholes before.
Yeah, well, that's one of our biggest problems right now. First of all, the public has to understand that we have what's a major problem right now is the filling of the potholes. Right now, all we're filling the potholes with is what's called cold patch. Cold patch is exactly what it says, and it's cold. It's not the hot asphalt that we normally fill potholes with, and cold patch doesn't stay in the hole for any length of time. Generally, if it stays a couple of days, we're lucky. But my real problem is that the worst streets and the ones that we really have not done anything with happen to be state routes. And as an example, Lincoln Avenue between Devon and Peterson. It's like a war zone. It's like foxholes.
Yeah, I ran a car for a couple of days last week, and it was a real adventure.
It's like a battlefield. Lincoln Avenue is, without a doubt, one of the worst streets in the city of Chicago. But in the meantime, there's very little that the city can do, and yet we have tried to fill it with cold patch. The city has tried to fill it with cold patch. But that's really a state of Illinois responsibility. And the state has not given us a dime.
Well, it is kind of rudderless.
I mean, well, the state hasn't given us a dime for the last 2 years.
Yeah.
And that street is in a horrible shape. Now we've already have plans for the center divider, and to redo the entire center divider, but we can't go ahead with the center divider until we repatch the street. We have to repave the entire street because the street is absolutely horrible. There is not even a question of patching. There is a question of repaving.
Yeah.
Because
You're talking between Peterson and Devon.
Peterson and Devon. It's in terrible condition. And hopefully, as soon as we get back to actual paving, if the state won't do it, we're going to do it. We have no choice in this case because the street is almost impassable. Hey, how do I know? My office is on Lincoln Avenue, so Lincoln is in terrible shape. But the rest of my ward is not unusual. It's all over the city. Right now, because of the inclement weather, it snows one day, and then it gets warm, and then the potholes appear, and all you can do is patch it with cold patch. And the city is in terrible shape as far as potholes are concerned. I just hope April 15th, which is the day when they start using regular asphalt, comes along very quickly so we can really start fixing our potholes.
Any chance that these things will actually be built out of concrete in the future or more concrete? So
I doubt it because it's just not likely. I'm just hoping someday we're going to come across something that will replace both asphalt and concrete. Concrete is just too expensive to start doing our streets out of concrete.
Okay. Okay. In light of the economy, is there anything going on building-wise? The Devon Rockwell.
Well, Devon Rockwell is really proceeding at an amazing pace considering the weather that we've had so far. They're almost ready to pour the first floor, and I'm told by the contractor that they'll probably be parking automobiles there by sometime in middle or late May.
Very nice.
And
I'm sure the merchants will be very happy about that.
Oh, yes.
And the neighbors.
We're working on another plan that hopefully will solve a major problem. We're working on a plan if the water reclamation district comes through, will also help solve a problem.
Yeah, and by the way, let's understand that President's Day, which is just a few days before we film, to me that's President Terry O'Brien Day.
Well, you know,
Terry.
they closed the big parking lot along the North Shore Channel.
By the Lincoln Village, north of Lincoln Village, where the
Lincoln
theater.
Village,
Yeah.
yes. But I understand that their attorney has told the new owners of the theater, which is now going to be a girls' school, that they would be willing to lease it to the city. And we've been working on a plan. I've been working with the old Department of Planning, which is now called something else. I haven't got the name of it correctly now.
The Department of Confusing Regular Citizens so they don't understand what's going on.
In any event, we've been working on a plan which would add it to our SSA, and we would then take it over and make a parking lot out of it.
Oh, very nice.
And we'd lease it, and the SSA would run it. And
that's the present Devon Avenue SSA that's in place?
Yeah. And then they would...
Special Service Administration, for those of you who aren't familiar with the initials.
And then they would encourage the merchants to run a bus down Devon free to the
Oh, to park there in a free... Oh, wow. That's
and have free parking along the channel.
That'd be terrific.
And not only would it be terrific for the businessmen along Devon, it would also, the poor businessmen that are adjoining Lincoln Village there have been really suffering.
Yeah, they've been choked. There's nowhere to park
There's nowhere to park.
And some of them have already closed up.
Yes, and this would relieve the situation there. So we're working on that plan right now, and hopefully, if that goes through, that will relieve those businesses along that strip there, and add to the parking for Devon Avenue, and make that a better shopping strip for the people who use Devon Avenue. Also, it will help those who don't like paying that very high new meter situation.
It's one of the reasons I'm grateful I don't have a car.
Well, let me say this about the meters. Most people don't park at a meter for more than 15 minutes. And the way the meters will now be set up, you're going to only pay a quarter for 15 minutes.
So you can just you don't have to do the whole hour. You can just do 15 minutes.
You can pay a quarter for 15 minutes. You don't have to pay $1 for. See, people put in a quarter currently and get an hour. But now you'll put in a quarter and get your 15 minutes. So and you're only going to park there 15 minutes. So you're not. It's not a question of paying $1 every time you park at a meter. You're paying a quarter for 15 minutes, and you're going into a store. You're coming right out, and frankly, it's good for the businessmen. Why? Because it's a turnover of people, and it's better for the businessmen. It's also better for the people that reside close by, because they don't have this business of people running around and going in circles in their neighborhood looking for parking places. So this way, the meters are freed up. And we have more circulation at the meters. So in a way, at least in the neighborhoods, the higher rates at the parking meters, it may be better for business than it is worse. So
people will be coming and going more quickly.
Yeah, and everybody talks about the loop. Well, frankly, those cars shouldn't be going into the loop. One of the things, I went to a meeting yesterday on the climate plan for the city. Well, one of the problems we have, and there's no question of this, is we have too much pollution in our air, and obviously automobiles contribute to that pollution. Even though, contrary to what most people think, pollution from the automobiles only represents 21% of the total pollution problem. Pollution in the city. 70% of the pollution comes from our homes, not from
the furnaces.
From the furnaces, from everything else we use, all the pollutants we use in our homes. And one of the things we discussed yesterday, we had this briefing by the Department of Environment, is how to cut down on the pollutants. I'll give you an example. You say furnaces. How about the wasting of water? I mean, you want to talk with Terry? Talk to Terry about wasting water. The wasting of water goes to polluting our atmosphere too. All the concrete that we have, and the waste of wastewater, that all goes to the polluting the atmosphere. And the problems we have with mosquitoes and all of those things, that comes from all that concrete and asphalt that we have. So there's a lot of things that go into the ruining of our atmosphere.
So my neighbor's sump pump that sprays out into the front yard over there
doesn't help our environment.
Yeah, but there's nothing I can do about it, is there?
Well, you can do him. He's not helping himself.
Yeah.
And frankly, it's costing him money. I mean, when he wastes that, he's costing himself money. I mean, when you waste energy with light bulbs, you cost yourself money, and that's the reason that the department tries to make people energy wise.
Well, other than the chandelier here, there's CFL and the TV lights, it's CFL lights throughout the house.
Yeah, well,
some of which I stole from the 50th Ward office.
Well, that's why we distribute them, but we also tell you how to get rid of them, because it's important that you.
Yeah, there's mercury in there.
That's exactly right. So you should be very careful how you get rid of
Well,
them.
actually, I've only broken one so far, and they really last a long time, because I actually had them before your office put them out. Yeah. I have a niece in New Jersey, and the state of New Jersey was selling them to anybody who wanted them for the 24 equals 100 for $1 each, and I've got a whole bunch of those.
Well, we give them away. We don't sell them. We give them away.
I'll be there tomorrow.
Okay.
I keep forgetting. Well, whatever. Anyway, no, I appreciate that. Because I do have them, even in the living room. In the they're everywhere.
Well,
right now.
I have them in my house too.
Yeah. And by the way, they really are a lot more energy efficient. When I initially put them in, my bill went down about $8 a month, and considering how much their people's energy and Commonwealth Edison are raping the people, I mean, it's probably even more than that.
Yeah,
now.
I just paid my ComEd bill, and I don't think my bill went down. I think my bill doubled. And, I don't use that much electricity, and I only see the bill going up, not down.
My bill got obscene, and the gas bill, too. As a matter of fact,
I say the same thing.
In our area, we have People's Gas. The people at NICOR, who are in NICOR territory, are paying 30% less because the People's Energy people bought gas futures at 30% higher than the NICOR people. So my obscene bill that was $400, which last year would have been obscene at $300, okay, is up over 30%, even though my gas usage is the same. And now these people would like to be rewarded with high. They claim they don't make any money on the gas itself, just through the delivery, so they want to be rewarded with another $10 or $12 a month. I frankly think that they ought to be paying us $10 or $12 a month for the bad deals they've been making.
Well, you should move to Winston Towers because we don't have any gas bill.
Really?
We don't have any gas in the building.
I didn't know that.
Well, the building itself has gas because we heat by gas, but there are no gas ranges. There's no gas other than the heating.
Oh, I love my Viking. I don't know if I can handle that. Anyway, and that was from courtesy of Sonny, by the way. He when he tossed his old one, it was a lot better than my 50-year-old stove. So thank you, Sonny. I appreciate that. We got a 2-minute warning.
Okay.
Okay. What do you want to discuss?
You mean you got to use the out of bounds plays now?
Yeah, we got to use the out of bounds plays. Get it to the receiver right by, get him to go out of bounds real quick. You got it.
Well. I think you happen to hit on some of my favorite subjects, but what else? I've already talked about the meters. I've talked about the parking garage. The economy is in such bad shape that really there is very little in the way of construction or anything else going on, and everything's really come to a standstill. I had somebody who was going to build one of those buildings on Devon, which was supposed to be a 5-story building. He called me up and he says he wants to go to 3-story.
Wow.
So that's what, unfortunately, what the economy has done to us.
Yeah, it's clobbered everybody, and at least he's still able to build.
Well, he hasn't started yet. That's the one with the big hole in the ground.
Crawford's.
Crawford's used to be, yeah. He's going to go with a 3-story building instead of a 5-story building.
Wow. But
a lot of people are happier that he's going with a 3-story building.
Yeah, there was a lot of opposition to the larger buildings, but the fact of the matter is, from my standpoint, at that point in time, people didn't want to invest unless they could build that big, and that was going on throughout the city.
Yeah.
And that's why there wasn't as much building, because you actually held people back from building larger structures for many years, which I highly approve of. But at this point, I want to thank you very much, Alderman Berny Stone. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you to my entire technical crew, Sonny Hirsch. Check us out on the web at ntnm.org. Not sure what's going to be on next week because I've got somebody. Well, we'll find out. You know what? You'll turn in next week. You'll be able to find out. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Thank you, Marty, as always. And bye-bye, everybody.